So James, do you believe a good salesperson can sell anything? Or do you think that they can sell specific things and only people can sell a certain thing at a certain point in their life?
It's a great question. When I look at a successful salesperson, and I've talked about this a little bit, I think that there's a balance, and I actually think it's 50-50 between art and science. So is sales an art or is it a science? And I truly believe that it's both. And on the science side, for me, science is numbers, it's metrics, it's processes, it's ones and zeros. And that is something that can be taught, and that is something which becomes scientific. More at the top of the funnel means more at the bottom of the funnel, and you can really create a funnel. On the other side of that, you've got the art, and that's more around leadership, persuasion, emotional intelligence. It's more about being able to read the right body signals and know when to push and pull within a particular circumstance. So, to your question, I really think I would be looking at a blend of both. Some people, they say they've got the gift of the gab, and they're probably very strong on the art side. Often those people aren't necessarily strong on the science side. Those sort of people would be really effective at selling and building rapport and selling a lot of things. But really depending on what the product or the solution that's being sold would be something to consider around whether anyone can sell anything to anyone.
Yeah, to anybody. And do you think, is it like a 50-50 blend, or do you think that art, because when I think of like art and I think of, the charisma and passion and, and the personality, and then you've then got the science around, okay, well, we've got to make sure we capture, we've got to get the metrics, we've got to do all these things. Do you think it's a 50-50 or is it something else?
I think that there's many roads and routes to get to an end goal. And in sales, that's very, very true. It's not necessarily always going to be 50-50. So that's probably fair. But in order to be successful, you need to probably have definitely a surplus on one side or the other. There was a chap that I worked with, 14, 15 years ago, a chap called Lassi from Helsinki in Finland. And he was incredibly process driven. He was like on the science side, he was probably like 80%. And he was just in an absolute abundance. And if you met him, he wasn't the most outgoing or charismatic salesperson, but he was the top performer by a country mile. And he had so much science behind how he operated, so much discipline, rigor, but the ability for him to track every single metric and data points and be able to know that it's just what you put in is what you get out, and optimize that process. Like he was there in an abundance. But if a sales person, manager, CEO is looking for someone and they think they need to be super charismatic, he would probably get qualified out on a lot of those circumstances. On the flip side, you may get someone that's incredibly charismatic, but if you really need to be focused on taking someone through a reasonably rigorous process, then if they fall down really hard on that aspect of it and they struggle working with that sort of process, then they may not be successful as well. So I think that the blend is important of what you're looking for, and it is going to be subjective to each different type of sale or motion. I think that many people can sell many things, but you're going to be able to get additional amplification if you lean on the different sides of that art or science based on what you are selling and who you're selling it to.
Now, you've scaled teams, Datto, looking at your track record of what you did there. Now, I find it very interesting. You've come from sales into recruitment. I think that's a really interesting switch to make, but it makes a lot of sense, especially, from getting to know you as well. When you were hiring or when you were scaling those teams, what were you looking for to get those results? Who were you hiring? What were you looking for during that hiring process?
Yeah. So when we got Datto humming here in Australia, like I was their first hire in country. On day one, it was myself. We built a founding team and for me, I think this is really important for most tech companies or SaaS companies. You need to, especially for those that have got international presences and you're building an international hub. There was me as a player coach. So I was managing the team. I hired an SDR to do my lead generation. I hired a technical resource and a pre-sales engineer. And then I hired another sales account manager, hunter, hybrid role. So we had a pot of 4 initially. And I think that covered all bases, from someone to talk tech, someone to build leads, and someone to close the leads as well. So that was the founding team. Fast forward, the business grew substantially. We had product market fit, and we also had an incredible sales team and a sales culture. But coming back to your question, what was really, really important for me at the time was creating a culture of career development and progression. And so for me, what I would try to do is hire the right profile for the future today as an SDR. I would look for someone that I knew had the characteristics and the DNA to make a really effective salesperson down the line. And I'd bring them in and I call it the academy, where I would say that it's a 12-month assignment. I want you to come in, learn the trade, learn the industry, demonstrates that you've got grit determination to last through a pretty hard job, which is SDRing. And then I would, as soon as they'd hit their, they've been certified in the academy per se, which was, they'd hit their target for a number of months and they demonstrated those things I was looking for and there was a role available, I would put them up. And the core characteristics I would be looking for in those raw characteristics outside of experience would be IQ, EQ, drive, inquisition or curiosity, and then cultural fit. And for me, if they had 4 out of 5 of them, like I would typically look to hire them. If they had 2 to 3, I probably wouldn't, because there was just too many things missing. So those were the core characteristics that I was looking for in hiring all salespeople, particularly junior ones that don't have a demonstrated track record of success. When you look to hire people that have got are experienced, then there's another layer on top of that with regards to experience and how they operate that I would try to drill into a little bit. But those core characteristics, that's your DNA. The rest can be taught if you've got them.
And so with your, you mentioned there about, having that find the leads, close the leads, support the technical, capability. Like that's such an interesting, because it makes sense to us, doesn't it? In this world, like, in the industry, that makes sense. We get people to bring them in, we get people to close them, and we've got that journey, during the middle. And then as you build on those pods and to be able to build them through, that's really the basic level. And I think, obviously I see different people coming in at different levels from a training perspective. What do you think people get wrong when they start hiring salespeople?
I want to ask just a qualifying question on that is what sort of size businesses are we talking about and what profile businesses? Because as you know, I've worked heavily in MSP and channel land, and then I've also got a lot of exposure to vendor land. So I'd say there's different challenges for each one of those sort of businesses. Which one would you like to?
Let's do MSP, because I think MSPs are the ones that are usually starting with one or just about get there first, or they're looking to potentially build a team.
Yeah. So, and again, a lot of this will be relatable to the SaaS world because you've got an owner-led sales strategy, and that's very, very similar. So there's a lot of similarities. A core difference, I would say, in the two, and why I'm asking is funding. A lot of the time, if you've got a SaaS business with funding, you've got the budget to go off there and do that, and you can afford to make a couple of mistakes. But if we talk about an IT services business, an MSP, a consulting practice, they're often owner-led. They're looking to grow the business. Business development for most industries, if not all, is the hardest thing. So they say, I want to go off and hire a business development person or a salesperson. But mistake number one is they think that salesperson is their golden ticket to business development and success. They think that if I hire this person and I pay them lots of money that they're asking, all my problems will go away and I can just relax. That is the main mistake. And it's a foundational one because it's a mindset and it's a preparation and it's an expectation mistake that a lot of them have made. And I've seen this mistake happen so many times that the salesperson comes in and look, they're salespeople. It doesn't mean they're amazing, but they're good enough to sell themselves in an interview. And they've sold the company the dream. And there's a couple of things that you need to look for. One is this person capable of operating in your type of business? And then also, is the business capable of supporting this person to achieve their own career and income objectives as well? So for me, it is a marriage of both the sales rep and the business, and both need to be compatible and deliver and help each other to be successful. So where I'm going with this is that what happens if you bring a salesperson in, whether they're capable or not, and the business cannot support them in being successful, and that could be supporting in management, leadership, it could be in leads, it could be in product market fit, it could be in support and delivery. There's a whole bunch of potential problems that if they are in the way, then that salesperson is not going to be successful. Is the business ready to hire a salesperson? So readiness in the business I'd say is a key piece. And then the other piece as well is identifying, is this a smoke and mirrors sales rep? Is this someone that is just trying to get a job and take a nice salary and just pop me up for a while? Or is this someone that can actually help to drive the business forwards? Getting the wrong person in is a common mistake. And the most common mistake that I see is they hire someone that is senior, that's been an enterprise seller, that says they've got a black Rolodex of people that they can phone up and close, and they've actually got an active pipeline already. You know what? 9 months down the line, they haven't signed a single client. I've heard that story so many times, and it's sad because when you look at a small business, that's turning over a couple $1 million as an example, even more, like their profit and EBITDA is usually, in proportion, even between 10 and 20%. A sales rep, let's say that their package is $200,000, is a significant part of that profitability. So if they get this wrong, it can be catastrophic to them. So I would certainly say that anyone thinking about this should not just go, I want a BDM. Can you help me find a BDM? But they should work with someone that can actually advise them on, is their business ready? And what is the right person for that organization? Try to marry them up and work with it on a consultative basis to get there.
And, if they're coming in with this story of, I've got the Rolodex, I've got the pipeline, I'm ready to go, how do you test that? How do you look at that quickly? Because my opinion is always fail fast. Like that's always been something that was taught to me, many, many years ago when I ran an outbound sales team and we were hiring quite quickly, and it was fail fast, and once we know a winner, we can spot them and, we help them go through. How do you recommend, or how do you see that people do, find that out quickly?
I've made that mistake myself. I hired someone that said, I've got a Rolodex, and this is early in my sales management career, and they didn't. Well, they did, and nothing translated. So whenever I hear that, it repels me. If someone says I've got a big network of people, I naturally go, I probably don't want to hire you. You've just done yourself a disservice by saying that. If that's your selling point of why I should hire you, that's why I probably shouldn't hire you. So that's one of the things. Yeah, if I've gone through a process and I think that you've got the capabilities to be successful, and by the way, you've got a Rolodex, then that's a winning success. But if you're leading with, if you have a sales rep saying to you, I've done this, I've been an amazing salesperson, always hit my number, got a big Rolodex, I can walk you into these accounts, be really, really nervous that there's a lot of smoke and mirrors there. So that's one, is try to protect yourself from falling for that trap. And then the other piece is, it's really, again, it goes back to, do they have the core characteristics of what makes a successful salesperson? So those are characteristics. And then what is their experience like as well? And for me, I talk about like my wild card philosophy as well. But if you only make a wild card hire if you can afford to make a wild card hire. But for these smaller businesses where it's really critical, I would say you want to mitigate risk as much as possible within reason. So look at someone that has sold a similar motion to you. So the similar length of sales cycle, similar type of deal size, has worked in the same size business. For example, if you're hiring someone that's come out of, you're a small, 20, 50 person MSP, and you're hiring someone that's out of HP or Dell or one of these big industry companies, they do not know what it feels like to work without all of the cotton wool around them. And what I mean by cotton wool is
the name behind them, the brand.
Name, the brand, the pre-sales, the post-sales, the support, the sales management, the CRMs, the systems, all of that sort of stuff. You're a small business, you really need to be entrepreneurial. So you really need to, I look for someone that has been in that sort of environment to some capacity, or has certainly got the skill sets that I can see to flourish in that sort of environment.
And interesting, you say that about that process. And I think I always feel for the reps that have come from Microsoft or Telstra or HP, because they've come in and been able to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm from HP, can I pop into your office? Most people are going to say yes. And sorry to the reps that are out there that are screaming at us right now, being like, it's not that easy. What do you think has shifted? I mean, obviously there's so many more, vendors and products on the market, whether you're an MSP, a SaaS provider, vendor, disty, etc. And there's so many more people out there, so many more conversations happening. What do you think the state of the market is right now? If you had to scale Datto again today, what do you have to take into consideration of what's changed?
It's an interesting one, because I said to someone the other day, if the Datto opportunity came along for me right now, I wouldn't be in a position to take it. It was perfect timing for me. I was 30 at the time when I took on that role. And I was fortunate, like right opportunity, the stars collided. It was a great timing for both of us. They got a great deal with bringing me on board. Yeah, I wasn't expensive at the time. And I got an opportunity to prove myself and work with an amazing boss at the time who gave me that autonomy. But finding that person initially that has got that capability and the energy and the desire and the passion to build that is really, really important. Because I now know that I would struggle to do that. I've got young kids now. I've got different priorities. So finding someone in the right stage of their life and the right mentality is not as easy as you think to find that person. But in terms of the state of the market today, look, it's a It's a crazy world. I left the corporate world just over a year ago. I was with Pax8 and I had an entrepreneurial itch I had to scratch. And I wanted to do something with helping IT businesses and tech businesses to grow. And that's a big passion of mine. I love to see them be successful. And the recruiting was one that actually had some natural traction over and above a couple of the other ones. I think that people always need people to sell for them. So there's always going to be a need for recruiters. It's just the market is tightened. But I was chatting to a friend of mine that I'd met in the dog park. We often do, and he's a cyber recruiter. Actually, Josh, you know Josh.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I know who this is.
Yeah. Great guy. And he's much more tenured in the recruiting world than I am. He said, he goes, I'm interested to know why you did it. By the way, you joined literally at the worst time ever. To in the recruiting, like the market is really, really sluggish, and it was really, really tough a year ago. I came out of last year being a lot more bullish because we actually did really well last year. We did about 25 placements in 9 months, and I was like, oh, this is a good sign from a standing start. This year has been slower, and I think that the macroeconomic climate is impacting confidence across the board. There's a couple of things happening, and I was actually at an HR talent summit yesterday, and they had a keynote presenter, a gentleman that came over from the UK. Lee is his name, and he's a legend in the recruiting and talent world for internal talent organizations. But he showed a map of the talent and the job ads and the hiring from the last, say, 4 years. And in 2022, it just went off the chart in terms of the amount of jobs that were out there. And obviously, that's where we've right-sized as an industry over the last probably 2 years. A lot of overinflated salaries, 20, 30% OTEs, like crazy money. People weren't, unfortunately, both what they were being paid, and the businesses had rationalized. Add on top of that uncertainty, and then add on top of that, ChatGPT and AI have come out of nowhere, and all of this talk about driving efficiencies in the business. Like, he was saying that the market is still really, really is not in a great state, despite what a lot of people are saying. And he said that what he's seeing, and a lot of the conversations are around, I don't want to hire more people, but I want to be more efficient with the tools that I'm using. And how can I build a really efficient process within my organization? So it still needs to drive success, but it makes it difficult that for people on the market, there's still redundancies happening. There's still people that are flooding onto the market, but businesses are still saying, like, let's grow. So there's more movement than there was 12 months ago, but the confidence in Australia is not as strong as what it has been or it is in the US. I think that means that, probably in 6 to 9 months, once there's been a couple of corrections, I think that like everything will activate again, but it's been slower than I was personally expecting.
And do you think now, like salary, expectations for salespeople, we look at BDRs, SDRs, and then all the way up to, senior account managers, etc. And that obviously just keeps scaling, and especially, across vendor world and SaaS, as you mentioned before, having that funding, they've got a bit more money to play with. And I get asked a lot from MSPs and vendors, how much should we be paying? How much should we be allocating for a salesperson? And I could say anything from 60,000 to 60,000. It really depends on what you're looking for, what you're getting, experience, etc. What's your take on that?
Yeah, look, there's definitely been a correction across the entire industry, and it's really simple, like supply and demand economics as well. And so the amount of people coming onto the market, I spoke to a few months ago. I had coffee with a 27-year-old, and he got offered a couple of years ago a job at Salesforce, and he was on like $400,000 package, and he's just like, I'm not. Yeah. I think he was 26 at the time, and he goes, I wasn't worth it, but I took it. And he lasted for 6 months until they came into the redundancies. He goes, I knew it was going to be short lived, and I think that's the right attitude. Is if you've lost your job, I would say see that period of time as a little bit of a lottery win, even if you spent your winnings already. Like, that's not the market today. There's been a correction, and we've gone back to where we were. We haven't necessarily gone backwards from 2022, but it's rationalized. And we spoke to a candidate this morning. He said, oh, this is my expectation. And I said, that's what I was on. I said, yeah, but you just got made redundant. You going to market, putting your bar at that level will actually disqualify you, because companies have got this philosophy where and thinking, and there's a level of accuracy to it, that if you think that you're worth, call it 200, and they're going to bring you in on their budget, say 160, then as soon as they're worried, as soon as the market picks up, you're going to jump ship. So they're going to invest a lot of money in investment for the first 6 to 12 months. and then they haven't probably made a profit, and then you're going to leave once that's completed. I would encourage anyone that is looking for a job that have a bit of a reality check. Like, the market is not there, and it probably won't be for some time. But if you're doing yourself a disservice by setting the bar up that high. With regards to, what's the cost of a salesperson? Yeah, you're right. 60 to, more than 360 potentially as well, is what you're looking at. But yeah, it really comes down to requirements and what you really need in your business. Do you need lead generation? Have you got leads that you need to close? Do you have accounts that you need to expand? Do you need to hire a small team and then manage them? Do you need to actually implement a strategy and a sales process to actually operationalize your go-to-market function? Like, each one of those types of roles has got a different level of experience, and a different price tag comes with each one.
And I think that comes into the question around that, do you need a full circle, somebody that can do the full cycle of sale from lead gen all the way through to close, maybe even through to account management? Because I know back in the day when I was running a team, people would they would come out of the academy, they would go into a sales role and account management role, but it was very separated. So it was, you sold, you identified, you closed, you lead gen, you sold, you closed, you passed them over to an account manager. And then that was it. The account manager managed the upsell, the cross-sell, renewals. And then the salesperson went back to zero again, and off they went. And I think going into MSP world in Australia, for me, it was very much like I lead gen, I found the opportunity, I closed the opportunity, and then I managed the opportunity. And so what then I see businesses that do that with is that they're limited for how much lead gen that person can do. And at what point do they then become full with account management? And is that really truly what they should be doing? Or are they really good at the lead generation piece, and how do you structure it? And I'm always intrigued by the whole full cycle conversation, because I think you still need tech sales. I think you still need technical input. You still need scoping input, and then making a decision on how that looks. And I think, would you say that comes back to that question around what are they doing? What are they worth? What is it worth back to the business as well?
And I've thought about this from a really similar lens, but a slightly different perspective, which is, and part of the reason is I've been working with quite a few MSPs that said, can you help us find a head of sales person? And I said, sure. I said, what do you want them to do? He said, we want them to go and do lead generation. We want them to close the business, manage the business, but at the same time, build out our sales strategy, our sales processes, and potentially hire someone else as well. And to be honest, when I first started, I said, I'll give it a crack. That is a unicorn. It's really, 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 really difficult to find that. But the next piece as well is there's only a certain amount of hours in the day and capacity within a human. Like, I truly don't think that that's the right strategy for you to deploy at all. It's a minimum for me of a 2-person job to be able to do that, or working potentially with a consultant or partner to fill the gaps. But if I said, my counsel to those business leaders, I said, look, you've got 3 things, and I wasn't considering the account management. You've got leadership, you've got lead generation, and you've got closing the business. One person can only really do 2 of those things. So if you want someone to be a player coach, then they can strategize and close business, but they don't have enough capacity to do the lead generation. If you hire a BDM, then a good BDM should be able to do their own lead generation and close business. So there's 2 functions, but don't expect them to do the other thing. Now, with regards to the question on doing full cycle, looking after the customers as well, human nature is that you focus on the things that are probably a bit easier for most people, or you shy away from the hard stuff. So as an example, when I would have an SDR team, if I gave them a responsibility of doing calling, but also another side project of doing some research on some accounts, I tell you, I had the best research in the world. It was phenomenal, but then they had no dials, right? So really, what you need to KPI people and pay them based on what the outcomes that you're looking for. So, like, again, I don't personally, my philosophy is you separate new business and account management. And it could be that if you're a growing business, then you've got a period of hybrid of doing both. If you want someone to do new business, put them on new business, KPI them on new business. And, you don't want someone to get sidetracked by a technical escalation from one of the key customers, and they spend the week trying to sort that out and keep the customer happy, as opposed to out there booking 2 to 3 new appointments with new clients. I would much rather bring someone else in as a success and account manager to solve that, whilst I've got really laser focused on new business, if new business is my goal. So priorities and what your business objectives are will probably influence the type of salespeople I'd hire.
And no matter, I think, how senior you are, how great you are at sales, we always choose the easiest things. And I think that's why, in my opinion, we've seen a drop off in prospecting. Prospecting is not where it was 10 years ago. That's making me sound old, doesn't it? I'm like, oh, it wasn't what it was 10 years ago. But I think it wasn't what it was, because although, yes, we still had distractions, we didn't have the same distractions we have now. We don't have LinkedIn pinging in front of us, the whole time. We don't have emails, by the dozen every minute. We don't have ChatGPT giving us ideas of what else we should be doing. And so there's so much more that's expected. And I think the prospecting elements are the last thing to be done if you've got the ability to be like, oh, I'm managing that account now, or I had to have a call with that account, or they needed me. I think it does just allow for error, or allow moments to be like, actually, I'm busy doing something else, and that's what you want me to do. So it's very much making sure that I guess the management, the structure, the KPIs are there. What do you think the first 90 days needs to look like for a business that's onboarding a salesperson? Maybe first time, or maybe their second.
Before I answer that, I just want to respond to the previous bit about prospecting, because I agree. And I actually think that we're in a short golden era at the moment where like just old school cold calling is gonna beat your competition. Because like you said, no one's doing it anymore. People are scared. People have got the anxiety of picking up the phone and cold calling someone. Everyone is leaning on all these fancy AI tools. And even me, I've tried it with my business, but it doesn't really work that well. I've tried 2 to 3 of them, and they sound amazing. And if I went really deep with one, I probably would have got better results. But there's a lot of snake oil out there, and a lot of people are at work, because my team have started picking up the phone this week. I've been surprised. They're like, people are answering the phone. Like 70% of people answer the phone. I'm like, whoa. And that's because they're not getting cold called as much as they once were. So it is more of a rarity. So I would encourage people to do it yourself, or hire someone, an agency to support them. And I think you'll get really good results, and you'll stand out from the AI crowded market. So your question was on the first 90 days for a sales rep. Like, what does that look like? If we're talking, let's say we're a small technology business that's hiring someone for predominantly a new business focus. If you're the sort of person that wants to work at a small business, and if you're a small business that is looking to hire someone, you should be looking for someone that is happy to get on the phones like pretty quickly. If you've got someone that says it's going to take them 30 days to learn and train and watch videos, and then they'll get on the phone after 30 days, that's a bit of a red flag. So I would say you realistically, you want to set up a training agenda and schedule, and you want to have mutually agreed KPIs and what should be achieved with regards to learning and enablement and videos, training and product demos and technical qualifications, whatever that may be, is agree what that looks like for your business for that 90-day period. But you want to, if I'm thinking of a salesperson, I want them to build a pipeline. I want them to, if there's any warm leads, to get in touch with them within their first week. Just jump on the phone call. There's no better way to learn than speaking to customers really quickly, and have an agreement on what pipeline looks like, whether it's either volume or value of pipeline added within that 90 days. That's going to be important for me. I think that you need to build the foundation of what success looks like after 90 days. 90 days is not about driving revenue. If you get some quick wins, great, but build the foundation so that sales rep, both sides are putting that person in a position to be really successful. System training, product training, industry training, and then activity as well. So pipeline activities.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think the 90 days is really important around those activities, because I know people have hired salespeople. And the thing I find quite interesting is I work with a lot of businesses that have sales teams, and then I've got a lot of businesses that are growing a team. So they might have one person, or it might be founder-led sales, and they're growing. And I'll always give them the option, say, look, I'll vet them. Like, I'll be their third stage interview for free. It's part of the service that I offer, because you work with me. I'm not a recruiter. That's not, the path I'm going down. However, if they're going to be coming in and I'm going to be training them, I would love to make sure, that I can give some feedback, at that stage. And I'm always amazed how little people take me up on that offer. And then when they come in, I'm talking to them about KPIs around activities. It's like, because if they can hit their activities, if they can show, what they're doing and how they're doing it, and show some, movement in their pipeline, in their conversations, reigniting past leads, speaking to existing business and new business, you're not necessarily going to see revenue in those first 3 months. But if they can achieve all those things, the numbers will speak for themselves. Although I don't believe everything is a numbers game, it plays a part. And we know if we call 100 people every day versus calling 5 people a day, we know which one's going to be more successful. However, if you're refined and you know what you're doing, you could probably ring 10 people a day and get a great result. And I think that's something for me that misses the mark when businesses are hiring. And coming back to your point before, is that they're paying a lot of money. So there's a lot of expectation. And I guess if I relate that back to selling, is that I know if I sell something for $10,000 versus something for $100,000, the $100,000 client is easier. They are not looking at every dollar and how, what I'm doing for every dollar, and we're getting incredible outcomes. For $10,000, it could be the first $10,000 they've ever spent on a consultant or an external service. And then looking and analyzing everything that's going on. The same thing with a salesperson. The more you spend, the more you expect. But if they don't have the on-ramp or the process to get there, you're going to fail pretty quickly, and it's not necessarily going to be their fault.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the service that you're offering, where you're effectively a coach for a lot of these smaller businesses, I think is transformational. And that is the key piece, which I think there's these fractional sales managers and leaders, and there's a place in the market for each of them. But it's a generic term, and you need to lift the hood up and say that what is truly being delivered for that service. And I'm going to break it into, you're either a strategist or a tactician. What these smaller businesses need is tacticians. They need someone to manage the sales rep bullshit when they see it, make sure the right metrics have been delivered. We've actually been doing some work with a handful of MSPs as well. Candidly, I get nervous if I'm working with an MSP, because if we offer on the recruiting side of the business, we offer a return policy. If they don't work out within a couple of months, then they will get a replacement for free. Now that makes me really nervous, because we've done our job up front, but we can't control what happens after that. And if the MSP is not doing the right things, they're not putting the right structure, the management, the processes, the coaching, etc. in place, then that rep will leave. If they're a good rep, they've got choices. So for me, I like working with MSPs that have got a sales consultant and a coach and a manager working with them. And that partnership is really, really good, because I trust that they've got the right person supporting and mentoring that person, the sales rep. And that I know that that rep will most likely be a lot more successful than if they're left to a technical person. Again, imagine if someone asked you and I to go off and become a level 3 technician and then gave us no support in doing that. We'd struggle.
We'd sell our way in there, James. What are you talking about? We'd be fine.
You can't expect an MSP technical business owner to effectively manage a sales rep and sniff bullshit, because they're just not trained that way. Yeah. So I think it's a very wise investment to, if you're investing in growth, invest in someone that can support and train your sales team.
What do you think is exciting in 2025? Now, you mentioned before about prospecting, and I think we should dive into that a little bit more. But what else do you think is going on in 2025 that people should be excited about, that people can leverage to build a sales team or to support their existing team in being stronger?
Yeah, when I think about what is exciting for this year, we're at a stage where the market has been sluggish, the economy has been sluggish. I'm really excited about it turning around and activating, and that's going to be transformational for all. The interest rates are already starting to come down. There's going to be some changes in, at a macro level, and it is a bright future ahead. I think it's going to be a few months we get there. The outlook is bright for the second half of 2025. I would strongly encourage that all businesses invest in AI from a perspective of optimizing and automating as much as they possibly can internally. And the amount of time savings that they can get on their operations will be transformational. Again, at this HR event I was at yesterday, it was just reiterated, if you're not investing in learning about how you can leverage the best of breed AI. And again, when I say AI, I don't mean some fancy AI tool that's going to generate you leads. There's no shortcut for hard work when it comes to lead generation. But optimization, I think, is really key and important. And the other piece I would say, which is exciting for a lot of people looking for sales reps, there's some great sales reps out there that are not on the inflated salaries anymore. So you can get access to a great talent pool at an affordable and fair rate. So I think that's super exciting for those that see that vision and are excited about the future as well.
With the fair rates, in the market, I think, often with salespeople is it's seen that, you just want a lot of money, but essentially your business makes or breaks based on your sales capability. And so I'm a big believer in higher bonus structures, in earning your commission based on what you're achieving rather than focusing on the base level, because the base level just means you come into work every day. But, true salespeople want to come in and prove it, and they would much rather get paid higher when it comes to the commission or the bonus versus the base rate. What's your take on that, and what do you think the feedback is in the market?
Yeah, it's a debate that goes back and forth. A lot of people say they want to negotiate the highest salary that you possibly can because that's guaranteed. I think that you want to pay your sales team fair market value. You want to be in a range of fairness. If you lowball them, you nickel and dime them, then there will be resentment, which will manifest itself negatively, if not today, in the future, which is just not worth it. That being said, a lot of the right salespeople are really attracted by a compelling comp plan, and I would encourage those thinking about this to understand what does a great comp plan look like. Number one, make it simple. I've seen so many comp plans where I just simply cannot understand what on earth it's talking about. If I can, as someone that's been in sales for nearly 20 years, like the rep probably isn't either. Just make it simple, and also make it realistic and make it compelling that if they achieve it, they make lots of money. If they're making lots of money, that's great because you're making lots of money. Don't put a comp plan in place that is designed for them to struggle to make it, because there's two things when it comes to a comp plan. Like from a salesperson's perspective, yes, they want to make money, but typically money for 4 out of 5 sales reps is not the primary driver. It's actually closer to sense of achievement. They want to feel like they're winning and being successful. And if they're in a position that they're looking at their comp plan, and one is I'm making their money and I'm failing because I'm not hitting my targets, they'll get really sad and depressed and then probably leave because they think they're going to get fired. Like there's no need to do that. Work on a win-win. And finally, for small businesses that potentially are doing this for the first time and you've got an annuity-based revenue model, don't try to make loads of money in your first year. Try to build a foundation. And even if you're paying overs, I sometimes hear, I want to get, 4 or 5 times the value in revenue versus the OTE. If this is the first time you're hiring for this role, you don't know if that's realistic. So I would rather go try and get 1.5 to 2 times coverage in your first year, but set the KPIs based on activity that's going to set you up for the future, or potentially pay really generous on annuity-based revenue so you don't make that much profit in year 1, but years 2, 3, and 4 are really profitable. So again, there's an art and a science to comp plans, but simplicity and achievability are important.
Yeah, it's such an interesting one. And I think it's because there is so much emphasis on that person coming in and the rate they're in. I think often businesses forget that. And they go really hard on, okay, well, I expect this from you and I need all these 20 things hitting. Otherwise, you're not successful. And they just burn and churn. And, 3 or 4 reps later, they're like, it doesn't work. Our business doesn't, they don't work for us. They're all rubbish that are out there. And I think often it comes back to actually what's the framework? What's the landing point for them for them to be able to come in? What do you think, sales skills wise, what do you think is really important today that we need to be looking for as we're recruiting?
The type of sales rep, the question at the beginning is, can anyone sell? Can a great person sell to everyone? I think possibly, but I think that what you should be looking for is what is the best profile salesperson for your type of business. So we talked about the characteristics, IQ, drive, acquisition, and coachability and cultural fit, but look for someone that can operate well in your environment. Are you a small, unstructured business? You need probably someone that can work in that environment, that's entrepreneurial, that thinks outside the box and well and gray. If you're selling deals that are on average, $10,000 in ACV, the annual contract value, find someone that has sold those sort of deals. If you're selling a complex solution to multiple stakeholders, make sure you find someone that can multi-thread, which is being able to influence multiple different stakeholders within that business. So there's different characteristics that you can look for based on the type of sale that you're doing. But yeah, so characteristics is one, ability to operate in your type of business, and then skills that are similar to the skills that you've got internally. And the piece I missed off there is product knowledge. I don't think that you necessarily need product knowledge or necessarily industry knowledge, but you need the skills to operate. Medical sales, I think, is a really interesting one to convert into tech sales. I think that it's a really similar value proposition and type of sale as an example, but completely different field altogether.
Yeah, I always talk about recruiters and advertising, them coming through. The one thing I find challenging with advertising is that they're used to a quicker sale. And so when they come in, it's a 3-6 month cycle. That can sometimes get a little bit disheartening for them if they're used to kind of picking up the phone, making a decision, getting them to say yes to something and move on. I think that's interesting. To flip it to salespeople, so obviously salespeople that are listening to this, what do you think for them? What should they be looking for? So they're thinking about making a move. They maybe are in the market at the moment. Who should they go and work for? What should they be looking for within somebody that they want to go and work with and grow?
I think that when I interview a lot of people, they will anchor and index so heavily on the OTE as opposed to is this the right sort of organization that I am culturally and philosophically aligned to? And you're disqualifying yourself because someone offers you a smaller OTE. OTE, I saw a stat the other day, only 42% of sales reps actually hit their number. So that means that 60% aren't hitting their OTE or getting close to it anyway. So don't index so heavily, but index on the sort of organization where you've got a compatible relationship. Identify, does that product have a requirement in the market? And are you going to be set up to be successful? Are you going to enjoy going to work and have an opportunity to achieve and be successful, make money, and go home and wake up every day happy? That's more important than anything else, I think.
When we caught up a couple of weeks ago, you were saying about having time within your day, and obviously you're running a business, but we are still selling and you're obviously recruiting at the same time, having that break in the day so you've got the moment to get some fresh air to do something. What do you think we're missing, or what do you think people should be doing more of in their day-to-day? And what have you learned, I guess, since setting up the business as to what's important to you?
Yeah, in the last 9-10 months, I've actually really taken a shift in the, I'll call it health category, physical health and mental health. And I've really tried to cut back on my drinking. I used to drink a hell of a lot when I was in the software industry and out in entertaining. I really try to minimize. I don't want to say I'm going to quit completely, but I really like trying to minimize that. And then my other hobby at the moment is Wim Hof breathing, which is I find very meditative. And then coupled with that, I've signed up for a wellness center where I do contrast sessions of infrared sauna and ice baths, and sometimes incorporate the breathing with that as well. And that it's really amazing, like how you feel and how you can get reset. It's just creating a habit through repetition. That's what I'm working on at the moment. But yeah, keeping physically and mentally healthy is more important than anything, particularly as I just had my 40th birthday. So I'm at that stage in life where those are really important for me. But I noticed a difference. I really do notice a difference.
Yeah. And if you could leave our listeners with one thing to take away, and whether it's something you've seen, something you've done, or a piece of advice that's been given to you, what would you say?
I would say think deeply about what your why is, and think about not designed to be a morbid thought, but pretend that it's your funeral in a couple of weeks' time. And what do you want people to say about you? And what do you want to achieve? And what will you kick yourself with if you haven't actually achieved that, and work backwards? And I've done that recently myself. And my why and what I'm looking to achieve is actually become a driver in how I think and operate on a daily basis. So really think deeply about what you want to achieve in life, and start implementing the little things that can help you to get there.
Thank you, James.
Awesome, Harriet. Been a pleasure. Great to chat.